This is the GPL podcast from GopherPuckLive.com. This podcast is sponsored by Jerry Peters and First Class Mortgage. Our expertise, your peace of mind. Visit us at firstclassmortgage.com. Now, here's Jupe and Vigo. Good evening and welcome to the GPL podcast, episode number 217, the season finale. Well, Vigs, the season didn't really end the way that we want to, and definitely didn't go the way, kind of we predicted. We were thinking, the Minnesota side was a little stronger. Turns out Denver solved the puzzle the last 20 minutes of the national championship game. And that was it for Mankato.
It totally reminded me of the game for Mankato against Providence, where they took a penalty and gave up a power play goal. And from that moment on, they just lost their composure. All of a sudden, the bad ice started to impact the Mavericks, and they weren't able to control the puck to make plays, and it really just all fell apart for them. Some Gopher fans probably enjoyed watching that struggle. Other people from Minnesota probably felt bad for them. But it definitely was.
I think a lot of people from Minnesota were thinking, why couldn't we do that?
Well, you look back at that Minnesota State game. If Ben Myers scores that goal at the start of the third period, maybe it's a different game. Maybe Minnesota is able to use their skill a little bit more. Maybe Minnesota State doesn't find the toughness that they displayed throughout the rest of the tournament. But
what did they went 5-hole? Must hit the inside of his pad and just took a weird bounce, literally just almost like a 45-degree angle out.
Mm-hmm. It went right through him.
It did.
Yeah. But I do think goaltending was a big difference in the Frozen Four. Minnesota didn't get outstanding goaltending. You'd like your goaltender to be able to cover those wraparounds, but with a strong push across and recognizing that, closer wasn't able to do that.
One time he was a little blocked off too.
One time he was a little blocked off by one of the players that we've been a little critical of this year, but big strong goalie probably gets there anyway. That's not exactly what they have in net, but Denver's goaltending was outstanding during the weekend. Yes. And I think that gave them the chance to take care of business.
Well, a lot of things going on. Obviously, this is our season finale. A lot of news today, but I'm going to start somewhere that I think it deserves. I think the biggest news we've heard this week is Boston College now has a retired coach. And boy, what a man and what a job. What a career he had.
Yeah, he's one of the last of the old guard, Jerry York.
Yes.
We were kind of saying, what's a generation of coaches? Jerry's right there. Red Berenson right there. And
some people were saying Lucia. I'm like, I think he was kind of an in-between.
Yeah, he kind of fits that old guard, though. Like, he fits in with that mentality.
Yeah, okay.
So I can see that. But he did a lot of good stuff for college hockey. It was fun when they came to Mariucci, and you'd see him talk in the post game in that accent, and he had that notebook all the time. You'd see him on the bench. He'd write little things down in his notebook, and then in the post game, he'd have it out, and he'd be reflecting in it before he met with the media or as he met with the media. It was great. I loved that kind of interaction with him.
Well, obviously it starts back in the early 70s. That's Clarkson, and then he was at Bowling Green, won a national title at Bowling Green, gets to Boston, breaks their, the big 50-year drought. What was it? The big hey, it's 1949. We always heard 1979 back in the day, Viggs. They were hearing 1949, 1949, 1949. He came in there and dominated those, late 90s to mid 2015, or so. Just dominated.
He did. And he's continued to attract really good players, and they've done really well. They haven't quite hit the heights that they hit there during that heyday, but what a great man of college hockey.
He definitely was. So I think that's the biggest news today. And then another Boston school, since they've gotten rid of two Boston schools don't have a coach, and the man we've talked about a lot this season, Danton Cole in Michigan State, finally separated ways there.
Yeah, reading into the situation there, once the ADs met with the players and kind of got a grip on the situation there, they decided to pull the trigger and just think that, they weren't going to be headed in the positive direction. So we'll see a new coach take the helm there.
And
maybe it's going to be a familiar face.
Michigan is, we'll talk about it after the season. We'll renew it. We'll talk about renewal. They're not going to renew his contract, are they?
I don't think so. There's been some rumors on the internet from people. I don't know how much I trust them, but I had heard that they were just going to run out the clock on this one and not extend that contract. So we'll see what happens. I don't expect to hear anything very official. You still see Mel Pearson congratulating all his players that are signing those pro deals after waiting for that extra year to get the true college experience. They're all gone now. They have quite the recruiting class coming in for next year that should fill a lot of holes, but man, a lot of talent.
It's not going to fill all
the doors. No. There's not going to be the leadership like they used to have.
I mean, and then obviously a lot of those guys, they stayed this year specifically to win a title. And they were in overtime, and they lost to Denver in overtime. Entertaining game. Just didn't come together for them. But that's the one game scenario. It's just, we've seen some other great Michigan teams of those late 90s. They won their kind of first, was early. And then they had that next year where they were really loaded. And then they didn't win. And then it was like the year after when they had lost some players that they came back and won. I saw this on Twitter. Hockey's a funny thing. Things happen.
Things do happen.
So what happened with the Gophers, Feegs? We had our little post game Thursday night. I call it a carbon copy of last year just because of the way it turned out. Not many shots, not many opportunities. You didn't feel that way as much, but the end result was the same. Mankato took out Minnesota, and I know you want to talk about this maybe a little bit later. Another Minnesota team taking out Minnesota.
Yeah, I don't think the process was a carbon copy of last year. Last year, Minnesota came out, made critical mistakes against Minnesota State, had to pay for them immediately, just giving away goals. I don't think we saw the same kind of performance out of them. It was the same result, but I think they managed the puck a little bit better. They just got outworked and out hustled. Through the first period, I thought they played okay. They were winning some battles. They were skating through checks. But all of a sudden in the second period, you saw that kind of end, and you saw Minnesota State winning those battles. And you saw Minnesota State winning shifts and putting together pressure that built up. And a couple times Minnesota got caught at kind of the end of an extended shift or something like that, and they just lost track of guys in the zone, or they didn't have enough space to skate it out of pressure. And all of a sudden they started chasing play. I don't know if they were chasing the game necessarily, but they were being out game managed by Minnesota State. And I'm going to take the L on this. I didn't expect Minnesota State to put that much pressure on Minnesota. I thought it was going to be a little bit more of that trap, that 1-2-2. It was definitely not that. I don't know if you watched the championship game, but Colby Cohen talked about Mike Hastings learning a 5-man pressure system from David Quinn at the Olympics, and he implemented that in the second half. and there was just not a lot of space, even for Minnesota to move the puck, unless they were super connected, and they were not. They did not respond well.
Are you talking about when they showed the end shot from the end of the ice, and as Minnesota's coming, or actually the championship game, so as Denver's coming up the ice, there were literally 5 guys right there in the neutral zone, ready, have every angle kind of covered. Almost like the side of a dice, just like a little cross there,
Yeah,
covered.
And every player was above their check. So as soon as that player was going to get the puck, they could step up and apply pressure. And that takes discipline and effort and scouting and strategy. And you have to break that by regrouping, by swinging, by trading positions, by confusing them. Because when they apply that much pressure, if you're connected enough and you're behind the puck, you're going to get some speed eventually when they get out of position. But Minnesota was never able to do that. In the offensive zone, Minnesota played 3-on-5 a lot. I know the defensemen got pucks to the net. I think they had probably 10 of the 15 shots or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
But were any of those shots very dangerous? It is usually coming from a defenseman who is given kind of a hand grenade, and maybe they make one move to make sure they can get the puck through, but there's no challenging McKay on that kind of stuff.
So here's the disappointment then, Viggs. You adjust. You short, quick passes, right? You dump the puck. And and Minnesota's got the speed to be able to go chase the puck. They just couldn't get any of that done.
Well, they started getting to the end of the shift by the time the puck got in the Minnesota State zone, and by that time you got to change.
Yep.
If you've done that much defending, you're tired and you can't forecheck. We talk about Bob's 45 seconds of hell on the ice. Well, they burned up the first 30 seconds trying to get the puck back, and they didn't have those connected shifts that you need to have to be successful. And, it's just a tough scenario for Minnesota. I heard Mike Genzel this week on the Athletic podcast with Michael Russo, and he kind of threw out there, to beat these older teams, you don't necessarily have to be older. You need good players. Does Minnesota have good players? They're definitely not older. They were the younger team. I just don't see them playing well together like Denver did in that third period.
But this comes down to playing smart, doesn't it?
It comes down to playing smart and playing connected.
Adjusting your play. Yeah. It was very frustrating. How many times did that wing get pressured in the defensive zone? The puck comes to him. He had a guy on right away. Either he had to kick it up off the glass or he was losing control of it.
And when he kicks it off the glass, there needs to be a player getting to the neutral zone in a hurry. Because if you don't get there on time, you're going to be late for the dance and they're going to go on without you. And that was a problem for them because I think they got a little fatigued and they weren't anticipating each other. And so they couldn't play fast.
So Minnesota loses. Michigan loses. No all Big Ten final. No Big Ten representation at all. Denver, they came together at the right time, Viggs. Not flashy, but solid all around. I mean, solid defensively. Maybe, not that lockdown type of defense, but they were smart. They kind of bided their time. They just kept, it was a one goal game going into the third. Well, it's only one. All of a sudden, they finally got it. It clicked. And Mankato just couldn't recover.
Well, Mankato had a bunch of chances throughout the game. They had breakaways, they had odd man rushes, they had scrambles in front of the net, and they just weren't able to finish. Whether that's Denver just being close enough in position or Denver's goalie just being a little extra clutch to come through with those saves, that was the difference. And then Denver's skill took over in that third period when they got some chances. Their power play came through and looked pretty good. Minnesota State just didn't have enough skill to really get the game back at that point. It just makes you think if Minnesota could have stretched the lead, would the sticks have gotten gripped a little too tight for the Mavs, but they didn't get there and Denver did.
A penalty-free game, the Minnesota game, Minnesota State, I didn't see any problem with the penalty. There was no glaring things out there. If anything, I remember you talked about Maybe Minnesota could have been called for some stick work, but it was a pretty clean game, and the refs just let them play because there was, I hear people, well, they never put us on the power play. You got it.
Minnesota didn't deserve to go on the power play. Like there were no
and then
scoring chances that were taken away by stick work. If anything, the Gopher players are getting frustrated and slashing the shin pads of the breezers, sometimes into the gloves a little bit, and then those were frustration moves out of them. Minnesota State played a good game, and sometimes you have to play hard. You have to take pucks to the net. You have to have offensive zones where you cycle and draw, a penalty or two. And Minnesota never really did that.
Definitely didn't. So now it was the big wait to see what happens. We heard pretty fast that Faber, I'm back. Faber's back. Myers signs today. And then we've got a couple guys, Brinkman, Crookshank, and Sorensen going to the portal. Two of those are seniors. Sorensen, the only one who was an underclassman. Kind of what are your thoughts on all of that? I mean, we all expected Myers. We probably expected it a little sooner. Some people are offended that he went to the Avalanche. I'm like, why? Kid, I'm taking the best deal on a great team. It's a great decision by him, and he didn't rush it. He took a couple days. A lot of people thought he'd be gone, first thing, but he wasn't. Just your thoughts on all of that so far.
Yeah, I think Myers, we knew he was gone. He's been a great player for Minnesota. He's put in the time. He could have signed last year with any number of teams, probably not all 32 like he could have this year. He really shined. He was the player that they counted on throughout the season. That's why he was a Hobey Baker finalist, that some guy from Minnesota State finally won an award. Anyway, he was a great player for Minnesota. He'll be a great fit on the Avs. He plays a tough style. I know the Wild fans are disappointed that a Minnesota player has gone to the Avs, just like Eric Johnson being in the Avs, and he probably can give Ben Myers some advice on what it's like to take adversity.
Is he up and down? Sampo Ranta up and down?
Sampo was up early in the year, and he spent most of the year in the minors in the AHL. Okay. So I think Myers will probably stick with them. They could probably use some help in the bottom six. Blake Mclaughlin, the other player that signed.
That's right. Yep.
He got a deal with Anaheim where he's on an amateur tryout for the rest of the year, and he'll go play in San Diego. And then he's got a 2-year deal with them. So one of the things people should be aware of when these players are signing deals, if they sign a player contract like LaFontaine or Myers signed, that means the NHL team really, really wants them, and it burns a year of their contract. So they get to restricted free agency earlier, or they get to, most of these college players, when they leave, they're going to get to UFA at 27. But they can hit RFA earlier if they burn a year. Players like Mclaughlin, they're signing that amateur tryout contract right now. So they're not burning a year. They'll play some AHL games this year, and then their player contract will start next year.
Okay.
So that's when they'll, start working their clock towards being an RFA. So I thought Blake, was a fun player to watch for Minnesota. Always provided tons of energy, fun on the forecheck, fun in chaos, on a power play, scrambles around the net. Always liked watching him play. He could make tight moves in a phone booth.
Didn't get much help the last month or so of the season.
Didn't get much help this part of the year. And then on the power play this year, he just did not get some of the points that you would expect with the ice time he was getting. I'm interested to see how he plays in professional hockey, because I think he's got room to grow his game there with his intensity and battle. I think that would be a good fit for them. And then the other news, Brock Faber he's back.
But I see Chris Eck is in the chat talking about it, and you've been talking about the past couple of days. Let's bring up that chat there. Can we talk about how Faber didn't make any of the All-America, All-USCHO, and quite a few other teams? The dude played 30 minutes a game in the Olympics, probably good enough to make second team NCAA. I think you had a beef with it too, but it's a lot of times it's a point. You got to have points. I mean,
heck, he's even a second round pick and an Olympian. So it's not like people don't know who
Sanderson
he
hardly
is,
played at all this year, and he was like way up there for North.
which is baffling to me. He missed half the year, and somehow he was getting these awards. So I think some of these voters are just blind on some of this stuff, and this proves it.
It's a who's popular, it's who's getting the points.
But the AHCHA is the coaches All-America, and that's what determines mural cred. And how do the coaches not give him the award? Now, that's just receipts for how this stuff should maybe be changed, because that's a travesty to me in the awards. Because if he did leave, for him not to go up on the mural would be sad. But he wants to be back.
He wants to be back, and he is 19 years old.
He is young. Sanderson's young too. So I don't understand that argument. Maybe just because NCHC didn't have very good defensemen this year. I don't know.
Oh. But I understand your frustration there. I'm like, did people miss the Olympics as well, where he played very well?
It was in Beijing, so you had to stay up to watch it.
Think of it this way. I think Myers got a lot more push because of the Olympics. Nye's probably got some push too. Why not Faber? He led the team in minutes played. He might have led the Olympics in Olympic minutes played average per game. It was really close. What would they? I don't get it, Viggs. I don't get it.
I don't get it either. I know the CHN guys were talking about after the regional how impressed they were with Brock Faber's play, and I thought that would maybe have them reconsider their teams. Obviously,
he wasn't even a regional player, though, was he? Was he all region?
I think he had to be. You can check the receipts on that, but he's. I think a reason why Bob.
That's all that matters.
Bob might be sleeping well this week. He doesn't have to worry about the Ryan Johnson and Jackson Lacombe early departure risk, because he knows he has Brock Faber coming back, who can play 30 minutes a night if he needs to, and he will stabilize the defensive unit for Minnesota. That again should be one of the best in the country, because Mike Kester's going to be back. They'll have Stoddard and Fish coming back. Some guys with some sandpaper who can play with skilled guys, and we'll see what happens with the 3 freshman commits to fill out that decor.
Well, I can't go on without talking a little bit about Sammy Walker. A lot of people not happy with my tweet, wondering, for one thing, why he wasn't talking to the media at the end. And, you kind of learn that, hey, people didn't ask to talk to him, things like that. And I think some of the frustration with me, Viggs, it wasn't just that. It's just I never saw that senior leadership for the team, for in games, after games. His play had really gone down. I mean, you had even documented he had 1 point on the season in the power play. So it's just kind of a culmination of that disappointment. I don't even want to talk about off the ice stuff, because we know off the ice, the kid is A+++. Busts his ass. He's always working with kids. I mean, phenomenal kid. My part was more of on the ice and team leadership when it came to hockey.
Sometimes you want your captain to be the player that plays the style of hockey you want the rest of your team to play. Is that fair? I don't know. But I think that's a standard that oftentimes coaches look at when they're trying to figure out who awards the letter. Sometimes when players award the letter, they go to maybe the guy who they admire, that they like, that they're buddies with. It's maybe a different label to put on someone. Brock Faber, Ben Myers, they play like captains on the ice. Sammy Walker maybe behaves like a captain away from the ice with kids and maybe alums and donors and things like that. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Genzel on his podcast with Russo said, say what you will about Sammy Walker. He's a 3-time captain, great part of Gopher hockey. I just think that Sammy's role on this team would have been better on the wing, focusing on killing penalties, almost like that Cruikshank role. Cruikshank played penalty kill. He played wing. It was a supporting role. He was, I thought, fairly effective there. I think if Sammy Walker played in that situation, he would have helped the team more. And maybe there would have been less pressure on him on the ice. And maybe we would have seen more. I think as the season goes on, that power play stuff, distracted from his game. Having to play center, distracted from his game. Like in that goal where he kind of got in the crease and got close his way on the wraparound, getting in the way of what Walker does really well. He's not going to be a center as a pro. He's going to be a wing. He's going to be a penalty.
He's going to be a pro.
We'll see.
He's. I don't think he's an NHLer.
Well, I mean, if he really embraces the Wes Walls kind of role on a team, he could be, but that's a long way from where his game is right now. And it's, I've been pretty hard on him. I'm not hard on him as a person. I'm hard on the role that he's played this year.
Exactly, because his, like I said, his off ice stuff and his volunteering stuff off the charts, great with everybody. But I'm kind of, I'm definitely more down on him than you are. It's just not what I wanted to see at the end of the year. One thing we talked about the last couple of months is that if this team wants to win it, the BMW line needs to show up. Some of the other lines made up for it down the stretch to get them to where they were. But honestly, that line needed to do something to make a difference for this team to win, and it just didn't come together.
Yeah, I kind of thought coming into the Minnesota State game that Minnesota might be able to get away being a one-line team with Myers, Hughlin, and Nyes, and it just didn't work because that Walker Mclaughlin line didn't produce much. They didn't produce momentum. They didn't produce energy. They didn't really take advantage of scoring chances when they were there. It just wasn't enough. And then we saw the Nelson Burroughs Pitlick line kind of disappear a little bit. I didn't think they were very connected. They kind of seemed like one guy was going and the other two were kind of like, what is going on? This is scary. And then I don't know if that fourth line with Perbix and Sorensen and, the other guys coming in there, I don't think that line really meshed and produced. So it was challenging. And it's probably the biggest negative to the season for my criticism of the coaching staff is not being able to figure that out. And I get it that they had a great second half where they were sweeping weekends and they were winning games. But you got to know, is this going to work in the playoffs? And that's a little bit on the coaches to figure out.
So, yes, BMW disappointed me. I think this team could have easily won a national championship if they played the way we've seen them play in the past. Just didn't come together. I see a message from Josh here. I'm joining here late. Have you guys talked about Chaz Lucius injury mystery and what his future looks like here? No mystery. Some kind of, a little bit foot injury. Coaches maybe felt he could have played through it. He didn't. And then, I'm guessing he may have been able to play towards the end of the season, Viggs, but he hadn't played. You had been discussing that. You're not going to throw him in there out of nowhere. But I have seen some positive comments coming back recently saying he's excited to be back for next year because his brother's coming in and hopefully he can get past some of these little injury bugs he's had.
Yeah, he just needs to grow up a little bit. He is kind of an underdeveloped kid who hasn't had time to build up that size and strength to protect himself through a college hockey season. And being as skilled as he is, he's going to be a target for people. And when he has that foot injury, it's always complicated. Old school hockey people are like, if you can put your foot in a boot and skate, you can get through it. But there's probably the more modern person who says, yeah, but if something bad happens, it's going to get worse and it's require surgery and it could be a big derail to your career. He's already had a couple of those where he's had to take time off from training to heal up. So I'm sure, long trajectory. this is probably the right move for him. From the Gopher fan perspective, you're like, this was such a big chance this year with all the pieces in place and having what they need. If they had a little bit more offense to put in that lineup, they're not a one-line team. They're probably harder to play against, and they can generate some momentum. I mean, if you could have kept Hughlin, Bros, and Pitlick together, maybe they play more comfortable, and you keep Lucius, Nyes, and Myers together, and you've got a top 6 all of a sudden. But that's not what happened, and I'm looking forward. I think on GPL we've overblown the situation a little bit, in the threads and in the posts and things like that. And
you know what? It didn't help that Moscow was so quiet about it. And at first he's like, "Oh, we'll give him a week. We'll see what's going on." I mean, Moscow was awfully weird about it. There's no doubt about that.
I think it's because he was frustrated with it, because he's old school and he wants him to play through it, and he's not doing it. And I don't think the conversation between them was very comfortable. Chaz is kind of a quiet, confident kid, but he's not very talkative. He's very scripted with how things go. And I think when there's a challenging conversation, maybe that could be a difficult point for them to reach. And maturity and time will smooth that over. He's a great player. There's a reason why he's one of the best goal scorers in his age group in the country. And if he gets a full off season, maybe we see him back at center next year, and we'll see that creativity even more.
All right, well, we've got a bunch more stuff to talk about here. I know Vigil's got some attendance stats that people look forward to every year. But first, we need to hear from our sponsor.
Hey, fellow GPLers, Jerry Peters here from First Class Mortgage. Have you refinanced your home in the last 12 months? If you haven't, chances are you should. Record low interest rates and skyrocketing home values make this the perfect time to remove monthly PMI while improving your interest rate at the same time. You can also use the equity in your home to finance those home improvement projects. Or you can consolidate high interest rate credit cards into one new low monthly payment. To hear more, call or text me today at 612-940-3291. You can email me at jerry@firstclasscorp.com. Or you could go to firstclassmortgage.com to fill out a free online application. Mention the GPL podcast and receive a $300 closing cost credit. Some restrictions do apply. First Class Mortgage's NMLS number is 322842 -480200. This is not an agreement to lock into an interest rate under Minnesota law. First Class Mortgage is an equal housing lender.
And of course, we always thank Jerry for being the GPL podcast sponsor the last couple years. Well, Viggs, like you said, we've had some good news. We've got Faber back. Myers left. A couple other seniors. Kirkshank going back in. Maybe he wants, not sure what he's doing there. Brinkman. Sorensen's interesting. Okay. Haven't heard anything about Walker. Honestly, I hope he doesn't come back for any sort of fifth-year senior thing. But like you kind of touched on a little bit, we've got Lacombe, we've got Johnson on defense, and we've got Nyes. And some tweets today saying Nyes is going to take a little time to think about it, but it's kind of a wait and see thing right now to see how next year's team will kind of shape up and come together.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to see how this goes. I did see Matthew Nyes at the Wild game last night. He was in the 200 level, enjoying himself with the people. And so maybe that's a sign that he's not ready to start making NHL money and go sit down in the suites in the lower bowl. I don't know. We'll see. He met with Kyle Dubas today. I know Nyes is leaning towards coming back. He knows that there is more to his game that he can work on at the collegiate level. And so that when he does make the move to the NHL, he is a success right away. You see sometimes with players, they make the leap too early and it's really hard to go back. If you don't fit right away, you're going to go to the AHL and you're going to play for the Marlies and you're going to take buses and you're going to eat McDonald's and you're not going to be able to train. And it's very different than being at a Big Ten school where you have Cal Dietz and all the training facilities that Minnesota has. You have the meal plan, you have the athletes village, You get chartered jets to all your road
Yep,
games.
they're flying a lot.
And you don't have to worry about your playing time. Maddox Fleming was a player who went to the development team, and he got put on the third and fourth lines and wasn't on power play. And he's like, I don't feel good about my game. And so he went to Sioux Falls in the USHL, and he got back on the first two lines. He got back on the first power play, and he's found his game a little bit. He's not playing for a winning team, but he's developing his game. And so I think for a player like Matthew Nyes, do you want to take the chance and go to Toronto and be a third or fourth line player and not touch the power play? I mean, I don't know if you've seen the Toronto Maple Leafs this year, but they've got this Austin Matthews guy who's going to get as much power play time as he can get. They've got Jonathan Tavares, they got Mitch Marner. They got a lot of options up there to score goals. They're not going to be looking for Matthew Nyes to play number one power play. So, in my perspective, that money is going to be there for him a year later. We'll see what he wants to do. He said when he went to the USA camp, he always viewed himself as a bit of a lone wolf. He grew up in the junior team and saw himself as a leader and a teammate. We'll see what happens there. He's an important player. If he comes back, now you've got a key player up front in Nyes, and you've got a key player in the back in Faber, and you're cooking with gas.
I'm seeing a couple questions about the portal. What do you think about the portal? The portal is full right now, Vigs. We've got our inside guy who gets all these portal information, and let me tell you, we started that on about mid-March, March 16th, 17th. I just checked it today. There's 56,000 page views of just that transfer portal page. People are interested. There are a lot of players in that portal right now, Vigs.
Yeah, you definitely have a lot of options with that extra COVID year for players. It's going to be a challenge. Bob, I think, maybe made the right call last year by moving on from guys like McManus and Burke and bringing in his freshman class, because I think those freshmen are going to pay off down the line.
Well, McManus was a senior. Burke wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, maybe Burke would have been a good guy to have instead of a Cruikshank this year.
Maybe. It's hard to know.
I'm just throwing it out there.
I mean, maybe Burke would have been more comfortable than Cruikshank. He never really seemed to be comfortable on the ice other than looking really good skating. He just didn't make a lot of plays that we saw. He was kind of always, just an inch off on his goal scoring chances.
Oh, that's a great description, because that's exactly how I felt the entire season with him.
So whatever that hesitation was, it didn't click for him. I feel really bad for a guy like Johnny Sorensen not to keep playing for the Gophers. It seems like a Minnesota kid who is a patient late bloomer who went and played in the NHL, 3-sport athlete growing up. I thought he contributed some things for Minnesota, but at the same point, this is a business. There's money. There's a lot of pressure. Bob's thinking, I got to bring in these recruits who have committed to me. He's already got maybe some hard choices to make on people who are committed to the program. And so he's got to have the long view. We'll see.
The one thing we've seen this year, I mistakenly had the wrong teams, in next year, but there are 3 kind of essentially new teams next year. You've got Stonehill, Lindenwood, and Anchorage coming back. They're going to need bodies. So I would say this next season, quite a few of these kids are going to have a place to play. And then, our guy Nate Wells also reminded me we have Augustana the year after, and then Robert Morris is coming back. So the next 2 years, there's going to be some spots. But there's not going to be as many spots on, teams like Minnesota and whatnot. That don't need to also, maybe St. Thomas. We've seen St. Thomas has like 9 guys in the portal right now. So they're going to need bodies. But, the scholarships are going back to 18. These schools are kind of limited to what they can do. I could see, in an emergency situation, people using it, but I don't see Minnesota using it all that much in the next couple of years, unless something strange happens.
Yeah, they've got a lot of commits kind of piled up for this year.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the next year they don't have that problem like we're seeing right now. We're kind of seeing a crunch where Bob's like, I got to recruit for Minnesota. I got to recruit for Minnesota. And he hasn't had very many spots open up at Minnesota. So I think he's got that old school kind of handshake agreement where, like, I told you you'd have a spot here. I'm going to make the room. I didn't tell these other players that I would have spots for them forever. And so I think that's why we're seeing some of that transition there. The portal's good for players who are looking for playing time. I hate it for these players that get told they don't have a spot.
Well, I mean, it's Sorensen's the one from Minnesota. Cruikshank and Brinkman, they were seniors.
Yep, they got their 4 years.
Walker's a senior.
Mm-hmm.
McLaughlin was a senior. Obviously he signed. You're seeing a lot of players in there that have 1 year of eligibility, but there are quite a few with 2 and 3 years eligibility. Those are definitely more unhappy underclassmen. Either I'm on a bad team or I'm not being used well, blah, blah, blah.
Or there's a coaching change and you don't fit with them anymore.
That's why we got Cruikshank. I mean, but there is a time though. I mean, I hate to be kind of mean, but if you're a senior, if you've graduated, unless you want to further your education or unless you want to play the pros, this is your time. This is your time to move on in life. It's tough to say that to players. People, I want to keep playing hockey. Yeah, we understand that, but you got a college education. Time to use it. Is that being a little too mean, Viggs? I don't know.
I just think players have to understand that when they get their scholarship, it's guaranteed for 4 years in the Big Ten. Doesn't guarantee you to play hockey for 4 years in the Big Ten. A guy like Sorensen, I believe he could still be on scholarship with you as a student. It's just he doesn't have a spot to play right now. Brinkman, Cruikshank, they've used up that timeline. I wish them nothing but the best. I thought Ben Brinkman really embraced his role this year, and I thought he was a good player for him.
We don't know what's going on with Sorensen. I mean, maybe he just we don't know if it's we don't want you to play here anymore, do we?
Yeah, I do. It's not a Brad Schlossman. Brad Schlossman wrote about this today, that coaches are being put in a really hard spot right now with the COVID year and the players having extra years, and the timeline for everybody coming in is getting crunched, and you've got coaches who have tough decisions, and it's the unfortunate part of this pandemic and the NCAA and the transfer portal. It's all coming together.
All right, well, Viggs, let's move on to one of your favorite topics that you've been covering for, well, ever since Minnesota started having attendance issues. Tickets, people in the seats, number of no-shows. Looked quite a bit better this year. I've seen some of the numbers you put together, and we can bring it up here, for the people watching. We'll try to describe as much as we can for the people listening here, but always interesting numbers. I'll say, Viggs, always interesting numbers.
It is, and I think this year's numbers probably affected by the pandemic a little bit. As we look at trends over the years for Gopher hockey, we've seen some things that don't look great. The numbers are not inspiring in terms of the season ticket holders. We look back, pre-Big Ten and the first year of the Big Ten, they sold nearly 8,000 season tickets. 7,765 is where that season ticket base started. And we've seen it continue to drop almost in a straight line down 10% a year. It goes to 7,400, 6,800, 6,000, 5,500, 5,000, 4,500. And this year is 4,055. And so that's almost half of what it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of things that contribute to that. Maybe it's a successful Wild team. Maybe it's scholarship seeding. Maybe it's the pandemic. Maybe it's frustration with Don Lucia.
The reseeding too.
Yeah, the reseeding. But that was back before 2010. People put up with it for a year, but at that break.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That first year, it didn't have an impact. But what it did is it burned through their waiting list.
Yes.
It totally went through that waiting list of like 2,000 people or whatever. And all of a sudden, as soon as they lost people, they were like, "You're up next." And people are like, "Oh, really? Okay. Nope." And then they see, "Oh, I could have bought tickets now. I didn't even have to be on the waiting list." So that's gone. And every year it's chipped away. And I think, the pandemic probably impacts that a little bit this year with some of the numbers early in the year. But we saw at the end of the year, maybe what's the future of Gopher hockey. So I think if we can share our screen for the people who are watching live, this is the game by game scans for Minnesota. And you can see it doesn't start out too great. I've got the exhibition in there first because it's kind of an outlier in terms of how I look at the numbers. But Mercyhurst opened the year. Now let's see if I can do that. Can I zoom in?
I don't know if you can or not.
I don't know. Maybe not my best thing.
Well, if I can bring it up myself actually, if we need to.
Oh boy.
Oh, well, let's look at this time. It's the average numbers.
So average numbers. So we can look at, the scans game by game, but this has been over the years about the number of people who no-show. And we can see it's pretty consistent in the number of people who aren't showing up. They've bought tickets, but they don't come. And you can see that percentage, applies. There's 2,000 to 3,000 people who have bought tickets. They consider it kind of their donation to the University of Minnesota, and they don't show up to the games. So that's been pretty consistent. And that's that yellow bar for people who saw the graphics.
I was grabbing another file there real quick.
But at the end of the year, we saw some amazing crowds. Like we saw that Penn State crowd at the end of the year. We saw that Michigan crowd at the end of the Big Ten. And those are record crowds for Minnesota where they're getting, nearly 10,000 people in the building. And it's a real 10,000 people in the building. And it was just...
And one thing I found out interesting about that, at the end of the season there, Viggs, 10,000 people and almost 5,000 no-shows? That must have been the extra tickets they had for the students.
Yep. So there's some extra tickets in there that don't really count once they get to that point. So that's kind of some interesting stuff there that I think I saw, or that could just be me screwing up the Excel sheet because I haven't proofed it very much. It's a busy day. I just got this request back today, and so I was trying to whip it together for this show. But you can just see that trend throughout the year. And look at those maroon bars. They're going up, and you can see some of those yellow bars, they're going down. So it was an impressive season for Minnesota towards the end. But that early part of the year, I think that's just COVID having an impact. And so I'll clean this up, and we'll have it on the new Gopher Puck Live site that Jupe has been working on shortly. So as soon as Jupe makes that code transition, I will get this article on there, and it'll give people reason to visit the new site.
Yeah, I'm switching over the message board tomorrow. The rest of the site is already kind of updated. You even kind of notice here we've got kind of slightly different colors and things like that. But I'll finish the transition tomorrow. Knock on wood. Hopefully it goes well. A lot going on with that. I'm still concerned about, what can the U do about the no-shows? They know who it is. But it's like they're getting paid.
Right.
They're making money. I mean, yes, they're not getting, maybe. Oh, I'm kind of curious. How many of those no-shows also paid for parking? That would be an interesting number to hear, or to find out. We've never get the parking numbers.
We
Um,
could probably get parking numbers from Parking
yeah,
Transportation.
just,
They're subject to Freedom of Information Act requests, just like the athletic department, but
but
it
you
might
can see
take
what I mean
longer.
there. I mean,
Yeah.
the U's getting their money, and if those season ticket holders also have parking, which I know a lot of them do, that's they're getting that money. Man, they're not getting concessions, but they know who's not coming. But do they care since they're still getting the money?
I think they care. I think their solution is to try to oversell student section tickets and try to make it as easy as possible for people to resell their tickets or donate them. I know that they're limited in their staffing and their abilities to be agile for that. We saw, I think, everybody focus on hockey that last month of the year to try to push tickets and create atmosphere. And I am seeing in my thing, I've got a no-show issue in my calculations. The ticket scan number is real. The announced is real. The no-show is a little goofy. So apologies for that. Working on a shoestring budget here of putting together this kind of stuff. But I don't know if it's necessarily pricing. Everybody goes to pricing immediately is the issue. The prices weren't the prices weren't bad for the Wisconsin game at the end of the year, and yet they sold 9,000 and 10,000 tickets, and they had 7,000 and 8,000 people to show up. It's not like they cut prices for those games. Now, the Penn State game, the Big Ten was gracious enough to let the U charge an affordable price for those tickets. I think it was $15-20 for people to go to those games. Even with that, they only sold 7,000 tickets. Now, of those 7,000 tickets, 6,000 people showed up, which is not something the U is normally seen. At like a 90% redemption rate, very rare. And then, of course, that Michigan game, they sold
insane,
nearly 11,000 seats plus because they oversold the student section. They had 10,252 people actually in the building. That's the most I've ever seen in 10 years of data here.
Oh, definitely.
Which is just amazing.
It was the least amount of empty seats we've seen ever, I would say, for a game at Mariucci for the Gophers. I mean, even back in the 90s and mid-2000s, there was always those empty seats. There was not many empty seats for that game, because it was phenomenal. The 5 sections of students, out of this world. And you could tell it wasn't a normal audience because a lot of beer ended up on the ice.
A bit of an issue. But even then, the price for those games was $20-25. Mm-hmm. That's not much of a discount over what a season ticket costs. I know people look at those individual premium games, the St. Cloud State, the Minnesota Duluth, the Michigan game, the Wisconsin game. If you want to buy just a single ticket to those games during the regular season, you're going to pay $70-80 to sit between the blue lines. One, there's not very many seats there for sale in the single game ticket sales anyway, because that's where a lot of season ticket holders are. But in the corners, you can get a season ticket for $20-25.
Yeah. Still a problem. Still
a problem. But I think we've seen what it can be.
Yes, we can see what it can be. Winning helps. It really does.
Yeah.
So we have that to look forward to. And just like the U may have put themselves in this position, but they also don't have the resources to sell 4,000 more tickets a game when that many season ticket holders are not back. Yeah, they put themselves in that situation, but I mean, it was something they never had to deal with at the old Mariucci, the new Mariucci, for literally 15 years at Mariucci. It was not a problem. It was tough to get. I remember when single tickets would go on sale, you had to get on the phone right then to get your tickets, and it was not easy to get them. So it's something they're adjusting to, and hopefully, I see Tim talking about a lot of staff being cut because of COVID. That's another whole issue. But we need to move on a little bit here.
But he also said I'm right. So that's always good. I always like to hear that. Confirm Vigo's comments. Vigo's right. That's what I take from that
give us a
comment,
quick
Tim.
scenario. Who's coming in next year? Cooley kid, another Lucius, Snuggerud. Some of us old timers recognize that name as Snuggerud. Just a quick thought on next season. Obviously, we know some of it will depend on who's back and who comes back and blah blah blah. But your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the big key for the Gophers next year will be Logan Cooley coming in. He's going to be the first or second pick in the draft, I believe. And a lot of the scouts watching him say he is an NHL level skater already. Like his skating is on par with NHL centers. He's going to be a good fit right away for college hockey. And I think they need a skilled center because I think they're also going to have to move Lucius. Chaz is going to have to play center. They need another skill guy there. And then you have Hughlin, Nelson, and Perbix as options. So we saw Hughlin move to the wing. Maybe that's the better fit for him long term. He could be a great center for Minnesota. I don't know if anyone got a chance to read Scott Wheeler's article on Hughlin about his back problems and all the heartache he went through to try to get back playing and what he went through this year. He's kind of like one of those guys who needs a lot of time to warm up and get his body ready to play, almost like Tiger Woods at the Masters, and he's a young guy. So maybe he's going to be a better fit on the wing if that's something that's going on with him. So I think if you have Lucius, Cooley, Nelson, Perbix down the middle, that's a good start. And then you have, Faber on one D, Castor on the other. Hopefully Ryan Johnson or Jackson Lacombe comes back and they're set there. Other players that are coming in that can score. Connor Kurth is maybe a less heralded player because he went to Gentry and he hasn't been on all the select teams all the way through, but he's a very solid player. He's done very well scoring in the USHL. He's a big body. You'd like to see that as Minnesota hopefully goes to an NHL size sheet, not next year, but the following. Mm-hmm. And then you've got a guy like Charlie Strobel, who's another big physical player. I think he'll be coming in to provide some of that sandpaper that Motzko needs on the wing. Cruz Lucius, we mentioned him. He's going to be playing with his brother again, reunited. He's also kind of dealt with some injuries. He's grown. He's not the little kid that we saw in the commitment picture. He's grown to be a legit NHL prospect.
8.
Right. When they were like peewee age, they were very small looking. But he'll be playing. He's missed some time this year due to injury. I just hope that's not a genetic trait with them and he gets a good offseason and he's ready. But he's another skilled player, a playmaker. I don't think he's quite as big or a goal scorer like his brother, but he'll be good. It'll be interesting to see what they do with Pinamini. He's a player who's put in his time in the USHL. He'll be almost 21 next year. So one of those older players who's put in the time in junior. John Middlestat, he hasn't signed an NLI. That could mean he's going to be a financial tender player where he doesn't get a scholarship and he just gets financial aid like a normal student and participates in the hockey team.
Luke did sign.
And he's got more points in the USHL than just about any Gopher commit in recent memory. He's had a really great year for Madison there. He missed last year basically due to COVID. He didn't get to play very many games. He went undrafted. I don't think NHL teams will make that mistake this time around. I think he'll get picked somewhere as an overage player. And then we've got guys like Brody Lamb and Jimmy Snuggerud, who I think Snuggerud's going to come in. I believe he's signed, but I don't know if Brody Lamb has.
Okay.
I have to check GPL, I guess.
And that's why we don't have room for fifth-year seniors and things like that. That's why we're not going to see a lot going on there unless something strange happens. It's right now.
Yep. So we'll see what happens there. They've got, 9-10 guys who I think all are ready to come play, and they probably have an 11th or 12th player who could maybe come in, like a guy like Lamb. He's put in 2 years now of juniors. one more year. He's been good this year, but I just don't know if they have the room for that when they have guys like, Strobel and Kurth and Pinomini who've put in the time in juniors waiting to play at Minnesota.
Okay. It's kind of a hurry up and wait type of thing. They kind of need to see what happens with Nyes, what happens with not Faber, Lacombe and Johnson. And you never know. I mean, sometimes you have kids decide in 2 or 3 months that they look at, so-and-so team, lost the guy over the summer or something like that. And, so things can change. We've got 6 months, Vigs. A lot can happen in 6 months.
A lot could happen. I mean, I could see a situation where if Nyes leaves, there's room for Walker to come back. As much as it's going to be frustrating to me, I will try to take Bob to a baseball game and talk to him for 4 hours about why Walker should play wing and penalty kill. I'll try to get good seats at maybe a Saints game.
Yeah, but do we need a 4-time captain?
It would be unique. Walker could be a good player for this team. He could be. He could be
if he's in the right position, and
if he was put in the right position.
Yes,
and maybe if he plays with someone like a Cooley or Lucius when they're developed enough to play center, maybe he can flash because Walker has some skills, the speed, the dangerous ability on the rush. I don't know. That'll be an interesting thing because he hasn't signed. And again, if you're evaluating the desire of the NHL team to sign the player or the player to stay in college, just look at the terms of the contract. If it's an ATO and no player contract for next year, that's a sign that the player wanted to leave and start his pro career. If they burn a year, that means the team really, really wanted to get the player and cut out all the stops. If it's something in between where it's an ATO and they start their contract next year, kind of like, we'll take you. We want you, but we're not trying to get you away from school.
Well, Viggs, it was a fun podcasting season for us. Season number 11 wrapped up tonight. Couple new things, with the StreamYard. Team didn't quite finish the way we wanted to, but it was a fun year.
And they made it to the Frozen Four.
They did.
We have very high standards at Minnesota. Bob was very critical of the people who didn't like them splitting early in the year. We didn't like them splitting because we knew this team had the talent to do what they did.
Correct.
And it's too bad that LaFontaine left mid-year. I think maybe if he would have found his game, that could have been a difference maker. It's hard to know. He didn't play great the first half.
He didn't.
Close played okay, but he wasn't to the point where he usually outplayed the goalie at the other end of the ice.
Yeah. That's it, Viggs. We're done. You get a 6-month break now.
6-month break. All right. We'll try to figure out where all these guys fit and what's next.
And that is it for the season of the GPL podcast. We will be back in about 6 months now. And it should be fun. For those of you currently watching live, we'll stay tuned for a bit of overtime. For the rest of you, this is the end of the 11th season of the GPL podcast. We'll see you back sometime in either late September or early October. But let me tell you, we appreciate all of you fans who've been listening all year long or watching all year long, either on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. So thank you very much for listening, and we will see you next season. Overtime. All right. Let's give you a little solo layout here. Ooh.
Very special.
Darkness.
bottle of darkness. This one's actually signed by Omar, who owns Surly Brewing. Cheers, Vigo.
Vigo.
So this is, I think it's a 2016, if I know my darkness bottles right. So yeah, we're in the dark days of college hockey now. So let's have the
Saturday
darkness,
night, folks. I took
look at
Thursday
you.
and Friday off last week.
You got to be at it.
Jupe making mistakes. I love it. That was fun.
Mm-hmm.
But I've got to work tomorrow, Ryan.
I do too, but you know, I'm committed to the bit.
Yeah, a lot of times I'm just not eating much dinner and I start drinking and it's like, woo, let's just go.
Yeah. I made a nice bucatini pasta tonight. Nice red sauce. It was delicious. I didn't Instagram it because I was busy trying to do all the things I was doing, but you know. Yeah. This is delicious. It's that old Todd darkness. It's got lots of like that Belgian date, you know, quad kind of stuff going on. I'm ready for Tampa next year. I'm going. Gophers or not, I'm making it for that one.
Like I said, I've got relatives that live in Tampa. I have a place to stay. I might have to do that too, Biggs.
I think I might make it a family trip. So then we're committed. You know, if it's just one person, you can kind of change those plans. But when you make it for 4, you know, I'll have a kid who will be a 4th grader, a 10-year-old. He might be able to go to the games. You know, could be great memories for him.
But you had to just take him out of school?
I mean, if the Gophers are there, you know, why not?
Yeah, we've taken kids out of school for vacations in the past.
Yeah, the school frowns on it where my kids go.
Yeah, they do. But God, I remember about 10, must have been 20. I thought it was 2012. The kids were still fairly young then. We went the week before Thanksgiving down to Mexico. And literally the next week, the price doubled for the entire trip. So it's like we're taking advantage of the pricing and the fact that it wasn't busy.
Yeah.
It was just so nice. So we've done it.
But I think Faber coming back is a good sign for Minnesota. I do think they need to figure out their goaltending situation, though. I mean, we're hearing Boynton's going to come back. After all that drama this year, he's going to be one of the options.
We've never seen him play.
We've never seen him play. I've seen him play in practice. But even this year at the end of the season, like he wasn't one of the guys rotating in when they were doing a lot of stuff. He was working with the goalie coach at the far end of the ice. And he seemed almost kind of like a pariah out there.
What do you think of this, though? Phoenix over Thanksgiving. That has been confirmed. Gophers going to Arizona State on the 25th and 26th, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Over Thanksgiving weekend.
Gopher football's at Wisconsin that Saturday as well.
Yep.
I mean, I've always thought I wanted to go to that game, so maybe. I've played the TBC courses in Phoenix. They're awesome. They're fun to play. Both of them.
Played the TBC courses.
Yeah, I made a paw on 16. Made a paw, hit the green and reg, 2-putt. It's on my Facebook stream.
There you go.
Funny.
Oh,
Peach and Puckhound. Mean. That's right. I have a pink purse that I picked up playing with the stat guys. And they never invited me to play with them again. So I still have it.
No, I mean, Peach is probably a good golfer, isn't he?
Peach is really good.
Oh, yeah.
Puckhound. He was better than me at times that day. I'm the big guy who hits it short, but I got my US Open thing here. I'm ready. I'm actually going to try to play Saturday. If we have any viewers who are interested in golfing at Les Bolstad and you want to play in a league, reach out to me. University of Minnesota Golf Club.
That's a good question, Tim. How tough will tickets be?
Maybe impossible. That might be the hurdle because it's not a big building. I want to say it's like 5,000, and I have a feeling they will sell a lot of season tickets for that
and
place.
The tickets allocated for the U are going to be
taken.
Parents, full, done, whatever.
Donors. I know the U has done golf trips to Arizona in the past for their big alum booster people. I would imagine they will do the same thing for this. I got invited to one, but I had to pay $5,000 for a weekend of golf. Yeah, I'm a 13 handicap right now. I got down to a 7 at one point, but I'm a 13. I own that 13. I need those strokes. But I am the first flight 4-ball champion at the U. Net golf. What do you thinking, Jupe? Did you get enough feedback about the Sammy Walker stuff for the season that really capped off the year for you? Did you see what the Twitter today on that?
No, I haven't. But
the SID,
there was definitely a little bit of a swear-laden text.
The SID had a little note for us today. Was we were asking for comments, and I think this is a shot at you.
That's fine. I go right ahead. Plenty of shots at me.
Not so much a question as a suggestion. But have you considered a reband to go for Faux Live, where you and an unnamed co-host survey the best offerings in the Twin Cities while discussing the Gophers, hockey, and pho? Because I do get to go with the SID every once in a while, and we have a nice bowl of pho. I am particular to a ribeye pho, which is delicious. And then Pat Mclaughlin piled on. Who sends out players to be interviewed after the games? Tears. And we even had one more media personality hop on this. One liked by Kevin Fallness.
Oh, Fallness.
So we just have the hockey community just coming to get you.
I don't care. I just don't. I'm sorry. I've got, players need to come out and talk after games, Viggs.
They do.
I'm sorry. He never does. He never did.
He never came out after losses. It was kind of expected.
All they want, and they said he did, but I never saw him, and he gets me thinking that maybe my memory's not great, and I know my memory's starting to go. I forget names and stuff all the time, but I'm sorry. He doesn't come out and talk after games.
He comes out after wins.
Yeah,
he comes out after wins.
Everybody wants to come out and talk after wins.
I know, especially when they score goals and they get introduced.
But they could rip
Sammy Walker 2 goals. Neither of them came on the power play.
They can rip me all I want. That's fine. I'm not the grumpy one.
That was funny.
Oh, that news conference. You look kind of grumpy. I'm like, oh my gosh. I don't know. In the Frozen 4, I had that picture I posted when Taylor Madsen and now I'm forgetting his name, came out. Seniors played their last game, but they were out there talking.
That's unusual. But yeah, I was just kind of looking through the archives of media for Gopher games, and I mean, Sammy Walker comes out after wins, but I don't know if there's a loss where I see him. Like if I look at
they did mention that he came out after the Mankato loss last year.
Last year, yes.
I don't remember.
Okay.
But this year, senior leadership, I was just disappointed.
Well, I mean, I feel like I said it pretty clearly during the podcast. He's a different kind of senior leader than what you're looking for there. So
actual leadership.
It's a different kind of leadership. Some lead from the front, some lead from the back, some lead from the sidelines. He's more of a back leader kind of guy.
Yeah, and I never did. Of course, I never saw that tweet by Deutsche, but bitter.
Yeah, but I think Walker would be a great European player. I feel like his skill would shine in the European game. I feel like he owes it to himself to try to make it in the AHL and see what it's really all about. I think that would be an eye-opening experience for him. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't even see that reply.
You don't? It's hidden? You got blocked by Deutsch?
Maybe I don't know. I don't see that. I don't see. No, I'm looking on my personal one. Let's try GPL.
Yeah, he went after GPL on that. It's hard to tell with some old guy who keeps tweeting from GPL about Timberwolves basketball. Grumpy old man. Whoever that was on Twitter who said that, I totally agree with you. Jupe is totally getting grumpy old man vibes.
I'm turning 50. Of course I am.
I know. Look at that hair. You're not a young man. So you are grumpy and old and you hate basketball.
Plus, it's just fun to get people going.
It might be an overdone bit.
Yeah, I was having fun with it last night, though.
We did have Alley Ray Sports, like one of my tweets today. That was good.
Yeah, I don't see even that tweet. Not blocked. I just.
It's just at me.
Maybe that's why.
Yeah, I just showed it to you.
Yeah, I know, but I like yelling at clouds.
I just showed it to you.
Jeez, you mentioned
right there.
You just mentioned Joe Mauer. Oh boy. That got the rube going last night. It was fun. No, I thought the crowd last night at the Timberwolves game was fun. The game was kind of fun. It's just not my thing. I really hate the end of games. Like I said, I timed the last minute 8 minutes, 12 seconds. I don't remember it being that bad when I watched it more when I was young.
The game's changed.
I used to love college basketball. In the 80s and 90s. Yes, it makes me old. But it was just more of a flowing game. It's just starting and stopping. It just I've kind of grown away from it. You know what? I love playing basketball, Viggs. I think it's great.
Yeah?
I suck at it. I love playing it, though.
Yeah, I played hockey on Sunday night. I was not very good. I'm in maybe above my head in this league that I signed up for to help out in. And I had to play defense. And I was just hanging on by the skin of my teeth, relying on some hand-eye coordination to break up rushes. But it was I was very much a defensive defenseman that day.
Gosh, it won't let me grab that text. Oh, well.
Who knows? It's out there.
Yeah.
But, yeah, not good. I was at the Wild game, so I saw the Minnesota Wild destroy the Edmonton Oilers in a 5-1 victory. And I saw Matthew Nyes and Grant Cruikshank at the game. Cruikshank was sporting a McDavid jersey. I felt bad for him. I left them alone in their misery. But it was fun to see them out having a good time at the game. The Wild were fun to watch. That it is a different level.
It's definitely been fun to watch. I just wish they just had some bad streaks during the season.
Well, the parity is there. Like if you don't come to play in the NHL, you're going to get beat. Like I don't think Edmonton played super, super sloppy hockey except for like 2 bad turnovers where they just handed goals, and that momentum paid off. But it was pretty fun to watch Evander Kane try to chase down Kaprizov and Hartman, kind of do like a Superman leap to try to get at him, and then give him the Hackstall salute. And then the Venmo thing was funny with Kane's ex-wife contributing $200 to that fine account.
That's just good stuff. That's just
Good.
great stuff.
You don't see that kind of stuff in the NBA, but you do in hockey. But yeah, I went with my dad, and my dad was just like, that Kane guy, not exactly good for the game.
Is Edmonton ever going to figure it out?
No. When you sign Patrick or Evander Kane to a deal like that, you clearly have not got it figured out. What are you doing to your team when you sign that guy?
I mean, but not
PRV?
just that. I mean, just figuring out all the talent they've drafted over the years. I mean, a shit ton of talent.
Yeah, I mean, McDavid and Draisaitl are very good, but that's not a team. Like they didn't. I know they came into that game with a little bit of a hot streak, but my hot take is they are not going to go anywhere in the playoffs. So that's a very cold hot take, but take it. At least Ben Myers didn't sign there.
I can't believe how many people are bitter.
Oh,
and come on.
People are going to be bitter.
And the Avalanche are our rival.
Yeah, they're a rival.
I know, but it seems like every couple of years someone makes up a rival. Remember, it was Vancouver for a while, and it's like,
well, it was a bit of a rivalry.
Still, come on.
They had some playoff series and stuff. So, of course, the Gophers don't have any rivals in the Big Ten right now. I'm still surprised we haven't seen Granato get fired. Right?
I don't know what to think about that. It's like, I don't know. I
mean, there's so many big jobs open now. Well, what's one more? BU, BC, probably Michigan, Michigan State. I don't know. It'd be good to be a coach. It won't be Gensel. Apparently, he says he doesn't want to come back to coaching. This would be his chance. He got the Lindenwood schools if he wanted to, and
2, possibly 3 Big Ten job openings.
Yeah. Do you think Grant has done enough to draw the attention of someone? I mean, Nate Lehman would be my first choice of those schools. Like if I was BC or BU, I'd want Nate Lehman as my coach. If I was any of those schools, that's who I'd want.
Tim Hapke, just think if he picked Dallas. I don't give.
You don't care too much, do you?
No, I do care, but it's like, if it was that important for the Wild, they would have made it happen.
They couldn't. There's no way for them to make it happen, though.
Then
Myers got to pick his spot. Everyone was going to give him the same contract, the same deal, the same opportunity.
And he just has to look at the team and say, where is there a spot for me? If there's not, why even look? Or why even go to that team? He's got to think about that.
Yep. I thought he'd go to Seattle, personally. Because there's a good chance for him to be there and get a lot of playing time and get to that next contract and have a lot of opportunities.
Damn, bring back Waz. Adam Wodon had a great thought on this. He's in his, late 60s now?
Yeah.
It's just too late.
I bet he'd still be a darn good coach.
He'd be a good coach, but it would be...
Would he be a great recruiter?
It'd be a coach grooming somebody else.
Yeah.
Essentially. Hastings could be a good fit. Hastings got 5 years left in his contract. I don't think he's going anywhere.
He could go anywhere. I mean,
he could, but
a buyout,
buy it out,
and it's not even that big of a buyout. If you're BU or BC and you think Hastings is the guy and he wants to go, the buyout, as much as these Maverick fans want to say that they're big time, it's not big time money. I bet it's like $2 million or $1 million. That's nothing for those athletic departments who have TV money coming for Power 5 football schools. It's just not a big deal. So as much as people think that's an obstacle, if a school wants him, that's a big school like that, they could get him. Now, if someone like St. Thomas wanted him or, Western Michigan, it could be an obstacle kind of thing. But if BC wants him, they would be able to handle the money. And yes, Ryan, it is Mankato at the end of the day. It's true. I tried to make a joke about the TV ratings and why the Minnesota State ratings were so bad. It's like it's because all their fans could get tickets to their school allotment.
The ratings were low.
Minnesota nationally, Denver and Minnesota State is not a good matchup. There's not a lot of casual intrigue.
Michigan, Minnesota probably would have been double that number at least.
Yep. And, you got the Masters, you got opening day. It's on ESPN2. I didn't watch a lot of ESPN leading up to the event, just the games. So I don't know how hard they promote it, but they're just not going to get casual fan interest in that game. I mean, even the players, like you think Arizona fans are going to watch Nathan Smith? And who are the big Denver players? They're not getting national attention. They don't have Troy Terry and
the thing is, I just love pulling out those 2002 numbers when you pull out recent numbers because what was it? It was over 2 million people watched 2002 championship between Maine and Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's how big of a deal it was in Minnesota. I mean, obviously, I'm guessing most of it was Minnesota. It's not like they're hitting up the big metropolis up in Maine.
Well, in my last 13 years, Union, Minnesota, the best game.
Or the most watched?
Most watched game.
Yep.
And that's with Union being on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
If that had been a Michigan or BC or BU.
Or North Dakota even.
Or North Dakota.
It's Minnesota, folks.
Yeah.
Yes. Sorry. Oh, we got big heads. Minnesota brings in ratings. I mean.
Even though we are a basketball state, according to John Krasinski.
Oh, jeez. Obviously, there's a lot more basketball teams. It's a lot cheaper to do basketball in high schools.
Yep, people are into it.
A ton cheaper. Everyone's got a gymnasium. Thoughts on the Hockey East and ESPN deal? You got ESPN Plus. It's going to be great.
It's great for me. More college hockey to watch. I'm on the ESPN bundle because I'm one of those tech people who got the VPN, so I could watch any NHL game on ESPN Plus, and all the games for the Wild that you can't watch on Bally's. If you have a VPN and you say you're from Atlanta, you can watch the Wild on ESPN. So it's a little extra work, and sometimes it can be a little finicky, but it works. And sometimes I don't even have to listen to Anthony LaPanta for people who don't like him.
I tried streaming Bally's many times. I could never get it to work.
I've heard the Bally's app is horrible.
A lot of times the games don't even show up. I don't know what the deal is. I just can never. Like I said, I had TV service that had it. I'm like, if this is a joke, and I finally just gave up. And now I definitely can't stream them. They have talked about they're going to do some kind of paid service or some type of streaming service. When that's going to happen, but a lot of times, go ahead.
For a guy like you, getting the VPN and getting ESPN Plus is a better deal than if Bally's offered a streaming app. So, just saying. And you can still listen to Panther if you want. It just sometimes it defaults to another one. I don't mind him. Although he said something on his podcast with Russo. I listen to a lot of Russo podcasts. And they were talking about the season like, even if the Wild make a first-round exit, this has still been a very entertaining season. With Kaprizov and the Wild, it's been fun to watch, and it's the best team we've had, in Minnesota. I was like, if this team teases this regular season and has a first-round exit to like St. Louis or Nashville, Wild fans are going to lose their shit. I mean, that would be a huge disappointment, and fans will not forget that stuff.
Just look up ranked NHL broadcast teams.
Yeah.
And the Wild broadcast team has been like 25th or past for a while.
I don't know. That's
State of hockey doesn't have a top 15 team? Come on.
That's kind of confirmation bias, though. I think that's probably a lot of Wild fans and people who hate the Wild downgrading the Wild crew just because. Like, it's hard to have like an objective person rating that, I think. Although our guy, Vosters, is going to be the Chicago Blackhawks guy.
Well, he kind of already is.
So yeah, but it's official now, though.
Yeah.
He's official play-by-play guy, so that's good for him. He and Cappy, they're just going to hang out at the Blackhawks games every night now. They'll just be buddies, do TikToks together.
I wish we would have known like some of the times that Foster's was going to be broadcasting, because a lot of times it was the last thing. It would have been fun to have him on the podcast because he would have come on. I think he totally would have come on, but it doesn't make sense to have him on if he's not broadcasting. So, but I mean, it's like it was kind of interesting, you know. All the regionals had people we've been around, and see, it was kind of interesting. I mean, every one of them seems like, oh yeah, I saw him, you know, been there and saw him, hung out with him. It was kind of interesting. Even Clay was back in it calling some games.
Yeah. See, Jupe, we've been doing this a long time.
Yeah, that does kind of confirm that.
It confirms it. We've been doing this for a while now, so we know all the people.
I must say, ESPN did a much better job shooting Melrose this year. The camera was up high, close in, not far away. Whereas last year, he'd have his hand down, and you would see it. You'd see it shaking. I'm like, what are you doing? You're making him look bad. I think they did a much better job this year. People are going to complain. He doesn't watch hockey. Of course he doesn't watch college hockey.
That's why they have Colby.
Yeah, he's a personality.
Yeah, he's a total personality.
And people complain, the complaints about Melrose. Yes, he's not the greatest play-by-play guy, but my gosh, nobody is more of an advocate on the national level than him. And it's not even close for college hockey.
Ibuchi, also an advocate. He's got a little bit of a tough style for some things, but he's excited about the game and he invests it and he does the social media stuff. Like all those promos he did where he shot the video with players, Brock, Faber, Scissors, and, you know.
And all the games,
He gets it. He's advocating for the game. He wears the jerseys every once in a while. I don't watch a lot of ESPN like I used to, but
I don't either, but
it's good for the game to have that. It's better to have it than to not. And even though I think the ESPN play-by-play guys for games this year have not been great, it's something, and it's on ESPN. So it is sometimes on SportsCenter now. But I thought Colby's a good box guy because he does point out some X's and O stuff. Like, I don't know if you've noticed, I've been talking about high cycles like the last month. And
boy, they were showing that. How man?
Oh wow, they're showing that.
I
was like, Colby, show me you listen to the GPL podcast without telling me you listen to the GPL podcast. High cycle. I've been talking about it for weeks. It's the thing in college hockey right now. The talented teams can do, and you know, I wish we would have seen that more from Minnesota against the Mavs because that's where the space was. That's where the space was. And they have the talent. Like, I just don't know why they don't have the green light. I know Lacombe had a tough first half of the year, but if he's as good as people say he is, he should be able to have that freedom to make plays at the offensive blue line rather than just shuffle and shovel. And that's kind of what it looked like they were doing in the game, is they would kind of shuffle the side and then shovel a puck at the net. Not hard, not dangerous. Like, they're trying to put the pucks off the bouncy end walls, like Nye said. Are you kidding me? You think that's going to beat McKay? I don't think so. That's the darkness talking.
I don't know. He's 6 months off now, though, folks.
Yep.
The countdown thing is already on the new portal page.
What do you think?
76 days. I'm just guessing that because October, the way it turns out, I'm guessing their first games are on October 7th, 8th. It's a good guess. I don't know anything yet.
It's based on when the Frozen Four championship game is. There's a certain number of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure if Nate Wells was watching, I'm sure he knows. Heck, NCHC already released their non-conference schedule today, or their conference schedule.
They always do that, though.
So I don't think they have a conference game to start the year, but like they've already got their schedule out. So there's that. For people who are aware, USCHO message board has a thread usually where they have a Google sheet that tracks all the schedules that they piece together. So that might give some hints about all that stuff.
Yeah, we know the North Dakota games. We know the Arizona State games from those schools.
Yeah. Oh, we should be able to tell from the Arizona State schedule. Because Friday, October 28th is the first NCHC game.
Yeah, Arizona State did put out their entire schedule.
Yeah, I don't want their ACHA team. Why does that beat their men's team in the search? What the? Seriously.
They don't have a name for their new arena yet either.
I'm waiting for a sponsor to pay up the money.
Yeah, I was actually adding the arena to assign it to their team on GPL. I'm like, they don't have a name.
So the Sun Devils kick off in Duluth October 1st and 2nd.
Really?
So it's early.
I guess so.
October 1? Man, we got a long season ahead, Jupe. My wife is going to be pissed. She's like, you want to go to Duluth October 1st for this stuff? I was like, yeah, I want to go play Northland and see my whiskey guy. Who I heard is going to be releasing a jelly whiskey, a grape jelly flavored whiskey. He has a honey whiskey, a mint whiskey, a shandy whiskey, and now he will have a grape jelly whiskey.
It's a jelly.
And so I told him, I was like, well, you got to promote a peanut butter and jelly shooter.
I've had the peanut butter whiskeys. I don't like them.
Well, John King liked it, remember? He's like, oh,
He
yeah,
did.
I got this screwball. I hate it.
I had some not long after that. And I'm like, it just wasn't for me.
Knob Creek can sometimes have kind of a peanut flavor.
A nutty flavor, yeah.
And it's not for me. Like, I like the more burnt caramel, like vanilla. And Knob Creek can have that too. But if you get some single barrels, it can be kind of like peanut oil, which I don't like. But yeah, grape jelly whiskey. Hey, he's just trying to sell alcohol. He's got his better stuff aging still. It's going to take a while. Gotta have something to pay the bills.
John King. A lot of people at the Frozen Four.
I know.
Kinger. I heard Kowalski was drinking with quite a few people on the chat earlier.
Yeah.
Wish I was there. Our guy Eric was sending me pictures of him and Melrose at the Frozen Four. So good times.
Yeah, I even got credentialed, and I was looking at booking, and I just couldn't put together a package that was going to be less than $2,400. $2,400.
Yeah, that was about where I was at. I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
So hopefully if I do some planning ahead of time, Tampa would be easier. Because, I mean, there'll be Western teams there. I don't think the East is going to recover in just a year, which is crazy to me that they don't go into the portal and just start taking players to make them a little more competitive.
Well, we may see that with new coaches in Boston College, Boston University. We may see some of that goofiness happening.
Yeah.
And we might see some of those players find out their coach and leave. So it's going to be an interesting 6 months.
Yeah, like Garrett Waite goes to UMass, wins the national championship. Where is Johnny Sorensen going to go to win a ring next year? I'm on Sorensen watch.
Mankato?
Yeah, I mean, why not? I mean,
he's the right age.
He's the right age. He's put in his time in junior. I don't think Sorensen was the problem this year with the team.
No.
I mean, we were having it earlier in chat. Is like Nevers, Brodzinski. Those guys can disappear at times. Like, I know one of the things I do when I am scouting players is when a player makes a positive play for his team, I do a plus. And a positive play is like you make a pass that creates offense or is a zone exit or a zone entry, positive plays. The other way you can create a positive play is like you end an opportunity for the opponent or you win a puck battle. Like those are positive plays. Nevers, Brodzinski do not have a lot of positive plays. They need to rely on other players to put them in advantage situations to create offense. They're secondary players. Now, a guy like Nyes, he's going to have positives all over the night. He's going to win so many puck battles, create so much offense, do so many zone exits, so many entries. Amazing positive player. The problem, I think, for a while with Walker was all the negative plays. He actually cut those out during their winning streak. It was very rare where you saw him not get out of the zone. Huh?
Turning the puck over at the blue line.
Yeah, it was very rare. It was very rare. And he stopped missing the net down the stretch too. Like he was putting pucks on net. He wasn't scoring as much down the stretch for whatever reason, but his pucks were on net and there were rebounds and stuff there. And so maybe if there was another player, like if Brodzinski kept up with them, maybe there were goals there for Brodzinski to score. But it wasn't happening. So frustrating. I would be shocked, absolutely shocked, if Brodzinski or Nevers were in the portal, though. Brodzinski family is very tight with Bob, and I think the Nevers family is tight with him as well. So, yeah, I mean, the Nevers family is a family that they want to keep. And he can contribute. Nevers looked really good as a bumper option on the power play. That middle guy of the 5-sided dice, is in the middle. He's good there. But he needs to play with players who move the puck. When he's out there with Walker and Mclaughlin on the power play, he's just not going to get the puck in that spot very often because the puck doesn't move. So maybe with like a Lucius Cooley power play and he's in the middle, he's the dot. Maybe he gets the puck on his stick more and he's more dangerous. I don't know.
The power play does need to get fixed, Viggs.
Well, I mean, the Myers, Nyes, Hugelin group was good down the stretch. They were like 30% the last 10 or 15 games, but that second unit was non-existent. And I don't know. Just baffling me.
For having great power play teams, great special teams.
They work on it enough. They work on it enough in practice. Like you'll go to a practice and they will work on the power play for an hour. Oh. And there's very little coaching happening. There's just like they're running stuff and they'll grab like one guy and like say one little thing, but there's no like stop practice and talk things through very often. On the penalty kill, there's a lot of that. Like if somebody screws up, it's like, whoa. Everybody stop. This is what we want. On the power play, they're much more, I almost think it's like they don't want to block the creativity. They don't want players thinking, they want them reacting. And if you're a good enough player, you're going to be successful in a Motzko power play. It's just that second unit was not very creative.
Yeah, I just got the water.
40 people. They want to hear us vent, maybe. I don't know.
Well, I
haven't seen a comment here in a little bit. That's favorite guest of the year. Do you have one?
Probably Mclaughlin, but when Ben Holden just fired up a heater right at the beginning of overtime, that was pretty hilarious.
That was pretty good. I got a lot of good feedback on Drew coming on for OT. Maybe that's just because we were all feeling good. We were all feeling good.
Oh man. I played the girlfriend really loved that video. I go, okay, now watch it at least 3 times and watch every single person's reaction on the video. And, you know, you got Drew just going.
Yeah, pretty funny.
Feeling good.
Yeah, it was good to have Mick be a little more comfortable with us this year on the show. I feel like he's,
Well, he's doing a lot of the video stuff now too. On Beyond the Pod, it's all video. I think that helps.
I think I gotta come over there and get him a setup. Bring him a ring light and a camera. He's kind of got that macho, the face.
I have 3 lights going here.
Yeah,
2 in front, reflecting off kind of the walls, and then this one behind. This one you see a little better. But
yeah, I'm upgrading my camera for next year. I'm gonna figure something out.
Like I said, mine's just a Logitech, but
I know the Logitech gets great reviews. I was trying to figure out a way to use my phone. It's just too hard. I could spend the money on an app, and it would be just as expensive as getting a camera. So I'm going to invest in the camera. So
yeah, and like I said,
you guys can see my beautiful bed. I never slept in it this year. Maybe next year.
Well, I still think maybe sometime here I could do a standing podcast.
Well, then you lose your background.
Yeah, because then
Yeah, you lose your background.
You see all the weird ceiling stuff,
and that light in the background that doesn't work either.
Well, yeah, that's why the camera's lower. But I do this at work a lot. If I'm in a meeting and I don't have a lot of participation, just kind of listening, lots of times I'll just stand up, just stand up during the day.
Yeah,
and sometimes if I need to, my mute button's right here on the microphone. I could use that instead of the the mute that you would have on Zoom or Teams, something like this. But I do like the monitor, because it's mounted on the wall, and I'm always tapping. I'm always doing, I'm fidgety, and it's nice that it's mounted on the wall because now nothing shakes unless I actually come up and touch the monitor. So, but standing helps a lot, especially if it's just a long meeting. You just get up, stand. You have the monitor right in front of you here in case you have to come on. I'm still within camera view here,
So back to a little hockey talk as we try to wrap up our season and the show. And Jupe shows off his belly.
No, I'm just bringing it down before I sit down.
He's trying to show the big shot belly. I think not having a guy who can shoot the puck has hurt the power play because they don't have that threat in the middle. They've had issues where they don't have people who can one-time the puck from the tops of the circles. I always thought Sampo Ranta should have gotten the opportunity to position there because you watched him in the USHL. He scored a lot of OV-type goals, hammering pucks on the top of the circle, never seemed to click. I mean, the guys this year on the tops of the circles, God, you'd think Brodzinski would be a player who could do that, right?
The thing is, he's a good shooter on the wrist shot, snapshots type stuff. Is he a good slap shot guy?
He has never had the opportunity to, because Walker took that spot. Walker is like the last player you want in that situation. When have we ever seen Walker, other than on a rush, be dangerous shooting the puck? He scores all his goals like within 10 feet. And it's because of speed and getting the goalie beat out of position. Why is he on the half wall? Not because of his creativity, not because of his shot. He's on the power play because he can gain the zone, because he's got great speed. But, I mean, come on.
Then why does it happen? Why is it happening?
I don't know. That's why I want to get.
I mean,
someone offered me tickets to sit with Bob at a Twins game. I need to have that 4 hours.
We had similar situations with the Don. We could not figure out why he was doing certain things or why he wouldn't sit a player. I mean,
I can understand not sitting a player, but why would you put a player in a spot on the ice where they have almost zero chance to be successful? I don't know. Baffles me.
What kind of drop off will Michigan have?
I think a little. I would be surprised if they're a Frozen Four team next year. They definitely won't be the number 1 overall seed. What do you think?
I don't pay attention to recruits.
I mean,
I don't know who these young guys are, and you never know how they're going to come together. It's the same thing with Minnesota. I mean, yeah, we got a lot of great young talent coming in, but
this year's class is better than the last class. I don't know if that's saying a lot or a little. I don't know. But the players the Gophers have coming in are legit impacts all over the rink. Like, they'll have impact draft eligible guys like Cooley, Chesley, Stuggerud. They're all draft eligible. They'll all be very good talents. You have older guys like Luke Middlestat, Connor Kurth, who will be impactful. You'll have grit guys like Strobel, Pinonimi. I mean, they've got a good class. It's a good balance. They've got Cal Thomas, who's a guy who grew up in the Maple Grove system, but I don't know if he ever played with Brock Faber. It could be a closet reason why Brock wanted to come back, was to play with him, because they're about the same age. And, the other thing, Brock is really close with his family, wants one more year there. I mean, I heard a long time ago that unless they won a national title, Brock was coming back. So, cool for him. One other question I saw, Betty Man, do you see Johnson and Lacombe back? Here's the thing. I think Ryan Johnson is more ready to go to pro hockey because he's a support defensive player. Like, whoever he's paired with, he will help them be a better player. He's not going to be looking to create offense. He's looking to break the puck out, shut the other team down, move the puck up to the forwards, be steady. Jackson Lacombe, he's played defense, 3 years? He is not ready to play pro hockey at defense. He's going to get hammered on puck retrievals. He doesn't shoot the puck well enough yet. Like, even though he got all that power play time, he made some nice, savvy finesse plays, but he was never like a hard shooter, hard option at the point. So that's not going to fly at the pro level. You have to be a threat up there, or they're just going to take away the flanks and say, Powder River, let's see it. Put some powder on the goalie pads. So we'll see. I feel like there's a legit chance they both come back. Like, I really do. Like, otherwise they would have signed already. Right? I don't know. I mean, we're already at Wednesday.
But I mean, look,
like
Myers,
day 5.
Myers would be gone Sunday.
Well, he was gone regardless. Like, he was just weighing what's the best fit. I'm sure it was hard for him not to sign with the Wild because they have shown him a ton of attention. Billy Guerin's been around campus double-digit times.
Madonna was there.
Yeah, Madonna was there. Judd Brackett's been there. I mean, they've had the whole staff. They gave him the full tour of all their facilities last year. Like, they have put on the red carpet saying, hey, look at our cap situation. We need players like you. You fit our style. We've shown tons of interest. You get to stay home, whatever. But he picked a different option. And I mean, getting to play with McKinnon and Cale Makar and play for Joe Sakic, pretty cool. So we'll see.
I will root for him no matter what.
I mean, I'll be happy for him. I'm not a total anti-Avs rube. I do hate the Avs fans, though. Just like the Avs fans hate the Wild fans. It's a toxic thing. Did you see my tweet about Eric Johnson today?
I remember seeing something about Eric Johnson. I can't.
I'd made some comment about how Eric Johnson will be good for giving tips to Myers on putting up with it. And there was a tweet that was made at Eric Johnson. And now, of course, I can't find it. I'm just a total overtime person who can't do anything.
Stop.
But back in (2015), Eric Johnson did a little selfie for Avs charity bunch, and he's like, "This kid nailed it." And then some Wild fan maybe said, "Was that right before you elbowed the kid in the head or hit him from behind?" And the guy's like, "Only a Wild fan would chime in like that about a sick kid at a charity event. Not surprised." I think Eric Johnson's had enough of Minnesota fans, because I remember another story. I couldn't find it, but when the Avs and the Wild were playing each other in the playoff game, someone asked him, "Oh, I'm sure you got a bunch of buddies from Minnesota who want to get tickets from you for the game, right?" He's like, "Yeah, but if they come in my seats, they can't cheer for the Wild." I'm sure that rubs him the wrong way all the time.
Well, I don't blame him. I mean, anybody who responds like that, unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, that's why Twitter's a joke for these guys sometimes. But yeah, Sampo loves the Avs. He loves Mikko Rantanen. Like, he loves everything about it. Like, you talk to Sampo, it's like he was so happy that he got to go to the Colorado Avalanche. So that's probably helpful.
I noticed a lot of people just saying, it's tough playing for your hometown team.
Yeah.
Why put that pressure on you? So, next a lot of people were going, no. I'm like, sorry.
So just a point to Ryan K. I would wager that the Gophers, who are weighing decisions, are not costing themselves money because they're only being offered ATOs for the end of the year and contracts next year. So I heard from a source that ATOs vary from team to team on how much money players get when they're on ATOs. Like, it's not like they're true amateurs, like they can get some money, but it depends on the franchise you're with, how much money you get. But none of these teams probably are burning a year of their contract to sign them. Because, as we've talked about, Jackson Lacombe probably not ready to step right in the NHL. So the NHL team is not willing to burn a year of his contract to get him on board. They're just not going to do that. Ryan Johnson, he's probably highest projection, a number 4 defenseman. They're not going to burn a year of his deal to sign him for that. So that's why that situation. Sammy Walker, like, he's not getting a year of his contract burned. You know, he might get an ECHL ATO, from Tampa Bay. So, but I mean, the money they could get per game is like a couple $100. It's not like these are not poor kids like Bucky Irving who are left the U for a chance at $100,000 a national name and image likeness deal. It's not like that.
I was curious, did you see some of Hammy's comments on the board recently about, well,
yeah,
he made some other comments, but he says, he's not liking the college game as much as he used to. He likes the pro game more because the pro game cleaned everything up. They started calling obstruction. They started doing things differently. And he kind of wishes that college would do the same, and he's kind of disappointed that they haven't done that. I just kind of want to get your thoughts on that because I still love the college game, but I think he's got a point though. The NHL game is a lot better than it used to be.
The NHL game's better than it used to be, and the World Juniors is way better in college hockey right now.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like the World Juniors, to me, college hockey used to be like that. And it's not right now. And I get it that it's easier for the smaller schools to win when they play that style, but it is less entertaining. I mean, that's why I freaking love the World Juniors. It's so fun to watch skill on display. And so I don't know if it's the officiating or the ages that totally dictates that. But I see what Hammy's talking about when he makes that point that the college game is not getting better. It's maybe getting worse.
And we have seen attempts at making the referees call the games, but it is like he said, it's a short-lived thing.
Right.
It lasts for a couple weeks, then we're back right where we started from. And like Steve, I'd love for college to start calling, interference, clutching, grabbing, blah, blah, blah.
The thing is, I don't see a ton of it either. Like I there's some, and it definitely picks up toward the end of the year and in the playoffs and things like that. Like there's clutching, grabbing, but it goes both ways and the players adjust. But you got to keep in mind that the officials in college, it is not their full-time job.
No.
And the oversight is not full-time. So it's complicated to make the big change. But I do see less of it than there used to be. Yeah. It's tough to make it consistent too. Right? Because officiating in college, there's 6 conferences. They're all going to have a different director of officiating. And the NCAA rules committee does not have authority over all the officials. And it's such a provincial game. It makes it hard. But there's room there. I don't completely disagree from the argument. I think it's just harder to fix.
I don't know. The fact that there was hardly, the first 2 games of the Frozen Four, a couple penalties on Michigan, and that was it. I've never seen such a quiet penalty box in the Frozen Four before.
Yeah, same. And it's like we said, I didn't see a lot that Minnesota State was doing that. There's some, but it's just like that's not the standard we've seen all year.
And honestly, in the Denver-Michigan game, a lot of the fans started getting ticked off the end because there was a slew foot that wasn't called. And I'm oh, so now you kind of know what it's like to have some of those things go against you. That's exactly what happened to Minnesota. Obviously not everything the Minnesota game of the Big Ten Championship should have happened, but there's a reason why a lot of beer was thrown on the ice.
Yeah. Yep.
And then it kind of happened to Michigan. Oh, darn. What a shame.
Yeah. How the sand goes through the hourglass like the days of our lives. What do you think of rule changes? What do you think we're going to see besides overtime and RPI and stuff? Anything?
What are they going to do in overtime now?
Well, I feel like they're going to change how the weighting goes. So we'll see. Some coaches clearly don't like the 3-on-3 stuff, so it might totally go the other way. I'm very hopeful that they change the regionals to a super regional, which I freaking love.
Good luck with that.
I'm tired of them being in these rinks where they can't do video review or the clocks aren't in sync or the ice is bad.
Is shitty.
Yeah. Even in the Frozen Four, the ice was bad. And they're at the TD Garden. Oh, come on. How can you not figure that out? Like, there was a guy who worked at the Shield Center in Fargo who spent like the year researching how best to like lay down ice for the NCAA tournament and get the ice good for the tournament. And they did it. Weird, right?
Well, why'd they put in new ice?
Because they want to do the logos and stuff.
But you could do a patch of the ice and do it that way. We've seen it. Well, we've seen it at a Final Five. You know, you're there at the end of the Final Five. You're there late. You're up in the press box. You see them just scraping off the logo and ready to put the model in. I mean,
yeah,
they don't have to take out the entire ice to do it.
They don't have to take out the entire ice, but they have to have people who are willing to do that, apparently. It's stupid, though, because like you can't make the ice too thick. Otherwise, it doesn't function very well. And you got to have the time, but it's just like, God, it's the Frozen Four. Take it seriously. Or it's a regional. Take it seriously. Like, figure it out. Like, how great would it be if the regional and the Frozen Four was at the same building and they could just build the ice for that 3 weeks or whatever, 2 weeks?
Yeah, no one's going to give up the building like that, though.
Is it the worst thing ever if an NHL team plays on that ice? Might promote the game if it was on ESPN and people would be like, oh, the Frozen Four is coming up. I mean, I'm sure the ice will be shitty in Tampa. So, oh well. We'll watch Matthew Nyes shovel a puck in the top shelf.
Don't
for a championship.
Don't count on having a press box seat. I'll tell you that.
That's okay.
Tiny.
That's okay. I just want to be there. Just want to get in that press conference room so I can ask Bob some hard-hitting questions and then make fun of Jess.
Oh,
it was fun though. Jess warmed up to me a little bit this year, so we shared drinks at Manning's once. So I had my schooner. He had his 7 and 7.
That was a large schooner.
It's good.
Go big or go home for Vegas.
I've got one packed away. Next year, opening show, my goal is to drink a schooner in OT.
Oh boy.
I couldn't find it in time for this show, but I will find it. And it will be mine. It'll fit a growler or a crowler. So that'll be the opening overtime beer of next year. It's a crowler and a schooner.
See, if I drank that much beer, I'd have to get up 5 minutes later and pee, and then go pee again, and then go pee again.
Yeah.
When I hit the hard stuff, not having to do that. So.
Yeah, the Michigan Daily kid, Connor, going after Mel Pearson right away. Did you catch that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, Connor Eargood, the Michigan Daily writer, who's been all over Mel this season. I'm sure Mel's
was he the one that was here this season?
Yeah, the bigger blonde-haired kid with the glasses.
Oh yeah, nice kid, great kid.
Yeah, nice kid. He's been on the College Hockey News podcast a couple times this year. They love him. He seems like an okay kid. He came out to Mariucci twice this year because he came out for the game and then the Big Ten championship. But he's really into his Michigan Daily reporting, and like they're doing Freedom of Information Act requests and stuff. So, I mean, they're the ones who uncovered the emails of Mel basically lying.
Oh boy!
And there's more there.
What did he ask about today, or what did he ask about?
He just said your contract's expiring in 20 days, right after they lost. What do you think is going to happen with your contract? Do you expect to be back at Michigan next year?
Awkward.
I know. It's like, man, that's every Rube in the chat going, ask Mel about his contract, you sissies. Well, this kid did it. And guess what he got? A non-answer. I mean, sometimes it's okay to fall on the sword just to get the non-answer, just to say, well, I asked. But it sets a real awkward tone for any other question you want to ask. So there's a right way and a wrong way to bark at a guy in his living room, you know?
Or you just go after Walker and have everyone come after you.
But you didn't do it to Walker's face. I felt like I was pretty political with Walker this year when I asked him about, you know, film, responsibilities, playing center, percentage hockey. I mean, I probably got him 10 or 12 questions on the year trying to poke at that. And I don't know. Sure, he knows that I'm a dick. But
I'm guessing Deutsch is not going to give me a credential next year. He's pissed at me still. So,
well, he might not be back. Who knows? We might have a new SID next year. There's been a lot of churn in Paul's department this year. There's been a lot of people who've been burned out with COVID.
I mean, I don't blame them.
I mean,
They're overworked, understaffed. It's ridiculous.
Underpaid. Like
Definitely.
they lost staff and they didn't replace them, and they just doled out the work to more people and didn't pay them anything more.
That sounds like my last job.
You know,
I mean,
like how inspiring is that?
It's like corporate America too. It's a lot of that bullshit's been happening, and we thought Deutsch wouldn't be so grumpy once the Don left, but then all this other crap's happening. They keep dumping this crap on him. I don't blame him for being grumpy at all. I mean, it's kind of a running joke that we've had going for years, but they are treated like shit. I'm sorry, they just are.
They're not treated very well. They're not considered teammates. They're considered almost like servants, I think, sometimes. And I don't know. If there were 3 things of advice I could give to Mark Coyle. 1, the student fan base that has shown up to your football and hockey games, do everything you can to keep them coming to games as alumni. Give them a student season ticket price for a couple years in a normal seat. Give like a 10-year young alumni discount to season tickets. You will rebuild your fan base with that kind of fan. They don't remember the WCHA Final Five. They were in grade school then. They didn't go to, 7th Street and party around and, go to the Excel and do all that stuff. They didn't do that. Keep that fan base. Number 2, I would invest in some sort of parking structure and Skyway into Mariucci Arena and Williams Arena. So your fans can park and walk to their arena without their coats. I mean, I think it's kind of ridiculous, the parking and infrastructure problems at the U of M. Like, they've got to figure that out and invest in the post-game traffic people who can get people out of campus efficiently, because it is a yard sale after every sporting event. Like, it can take you 35 minutes to get to a game and an hour to leave. The post-game show is entertaining, but it doesn't last an hour and it's not that entertaining. It doesn't make it worth it. So figure that out. Number 3, get your athletic department support staff considered part of your team and treat them well so that they produce quality content and express your message. Because if there's anything I've learned in customer service, it's that one bad experience gets shared with 20 people. So whenever you have something negative, like some of the stuff we hear about, and it's not just Brian, like there's other people who have bad experiences with their coaches and their sports and their programs and the athletic department. But that message gets out and it just changes the way people perceive your program and your product and all that goes around it. So figure out a way to make that more rewarding, and so that everything runs smoother. And so it's not just like a shit show.
I mean, think of how long Deutsch has been there. That's rare for Minnesota. I mean, Michelle Train obviously she's kind of the senior person in that whole department area. Went from, women's hockey to volleyball. She's now the men's basketball. She's been there forever. But you look at some of the other schools. You look at a Paul Allen at Minnesota State. Been there forever. You've got what was it? You had Duluth and St. Cloud have their SIDs for a very long time. A lot of them just have recently.
Yeah, Bob was great.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it seems like Minnesota was always kind of churning through them. And when we first started covering, we went through, Kevin Kurt, and it just went through quite a few quickly. Deutsch has been there a while. But I wouldn't blame anybody over there for moving on to doing something different.
It's a hard job. I mean, look at this. October 1 to April 8th, and probably now like April 20th because of these departures and stuff. And like
and he's going to cover like stuff like track that's starting up and like,
rowing,
other sports.
Yes. And rowing, it's like, so like the University of Minnesota is moving more towards an SEC model with less sports. Part of this is the reason is like their support staff is just not in a position to succeed. So I don't know. Thanks, Peach. Thanks, Ryan.
We want you coming back, Peach. As long as you come back, we'll be good, Peach. All right, it's almost midnight.
Yep, I got to get ready for my
time for that.
I'm going to San Diego next week. I'm going to play golf at Omni La Costa Resort and Spa in San Diego.
Are you sending your clubs out early?
No, I'm bringing them with me.
Oh boy,
taking the risk. Hopefully they come with me. Yeah, hit my drives 215.
Try being the rake guy. Text from a certain.
Yep, he's been listening tonight. I've gotten some other notes from him.
Try being the. Well, at least I think Bob's a little better than the Don was in that case.
He is, but he isn't.
He's not a dick to him. I hope not. Sometimes the Don wouldn't even acknowledge him.
I know, but
and that's just like you see him every day. It's like, what the hell?
There's a level of organization that has to be there for a job like the head hockey coach at the University of Minnesota. It's a standard that I don't think a lot of people understand, and even the people in the position don't understand. You are the CEO of Minnesota Hockey. You have a big impact on a lot of people that you maybe not realize is important, but it all adds up. And maybe you just need a little bit of country Jer in you to figure some of that out, or a little bit of Mike Hastings humility, whatever it is, you need something. Like it takes a lot to figure it out. So when Jupe puts this in the post show, I'm gonna have a little Eagle Rare. So that's my.
Hold on. Let's go full screen with you on that, so you can get a good snapshot of that.
Eagle Rare, my favorite bourbon. This one is a barrel pick from 1010 Washington Wine Spirits. Washington Wine Spirits has sponsored some of the overtime selections so far this season. I'd like to thank them in our final show of the year. If you are looking for a great selection of bourbon, Scotch whiskey, wine, putting together a six-pack, it's a good spot to go. That's all I'm saying. It's conveniently located. This is probably my favorite store pick bourbon I've ever had. It's got like butterscotch, vanilla. I mean, smooth. It's rich. It's viscous. It's absolutely fantastic.
Well, we definitely got to thank the people who watch us live every single week. I know there's some of you. I will get into this studio sometimes 45 minutes, half hour early just to have it up, doing other things. And they're already chatting long before the show starts in the in the YouTube chat room for this. So, and like right now, it's 11:54 at night. There's 38 people still watching these two losers.
Love you guys. You make it worth it. It's fun.
I'm glad we found this platform to be able to go out in multiple streams. I've been seeing some of the Twitter numbers. People are just dropping in for a couple seconds. So those numbers we don't see on this Vigs. But when you go back and view, this 600 people watched this, maybe bits and pieces, when the show was going out live. That's pretty cool. Definitely cool. And of course, Jerry for sponsoring us again this year.
Jerry. Thank you, Jerry. Appreciate it.
We definitely appreciate it. So it's been a fun year.
If there's a secondary sponsor out there, we could do another one. So we got to get Jupe some wine.
Fill this thing up. I will fill this thing up with buzz if we have to.
We won't do too many ads, but maybe a couple.
You just do a couple back to back, and that's kind of your break in the middle of the show.
Let's Vigo to get his beer prepped for his overtime session.
The best part is you guys don't get to see Vigo try and hurry up getting his stuff going, unmuting himself, because I can just a little below our window here is the view. Even when we turn ourselves up, you can see Viggs, and he's like panning. Unmute.
Still getting better at it. I think it was a good one tonight. So.
Yeah, people want to see me get drunk more. No. I mean, it's fun, but
can't do it too often. Otherwise, it ruins the bit.
I've done it once the past 2 years, once a year. So
yeah,
it all depends. Maybe that Thanksgiving show before Arizona State next year again. And, I would like to get a female guest on here sometime, Viggs. We've had that, people telling us, what's her name? People have been telling us who we should have on, and I'm not sure.
Allie Ray?
Yes.
Ray? No, that's not happening.
Does she even know college hockey or care?
It's funny. She's not the right guest for us.
No.
She's an adult entertainment star. Jupe.
And then
it sounds.
See, I don't even know that. People are like, she's watching hockey. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll follow her.
She's a hockey fan, yeah. But
yeah, people are like, you should have her on the show. She'd be fun. I'm like, I never really investigated, but
it would not be a good fit.
We do need a female influence, though.
I would like Gigi Marvin. I think she would be a good guest.
It'd be nice if they start playing, having more. I like her.
She's good. Yeah, she's good.
And people say, oh, that great on TV. You have to give everybody at least a couple seasons on TV. It just takes a long time to learn. Just listen to this podcast. Go back and listen to the first 20 episodes. Holy crap.
Don't listen to all 20. Jesse Pierce would probably be a good one, too.
Minutes.
Yeah, Jesse Pierce would probably be a good one. She does the Bar Down Beauties. With Alexis. I don't know Alexis's last name off the top of my head. But Jesse would be a good one. Paula Weston from USHO. If they were playing a Michigan team, she would be good.
The other Meg Ryan. If she would have covered more this season, I think she would have been good.
Yeah. I mean, she's on.
She just kind of came in for a short time.
Yeah.
Pardon?
She's on that Twins beat now, and that's her thing. So she's a good writer. She does a good job, but I don't know. It's weird seeing the Pioneer Press and Star Trib kind of waffle on their coverage. That's why we're here. We love the college hockey game. Can't let it go. I don't know. Everyone, my DMs are open. Send me feedback. What do you want more of? Look forward to my college hockey power rankings and my attendance thing that I will fix before I publish this week on Go for Puck Live. Rebooted. Will not be Go for
only the message. Live. Just the message board's rebooted.
I know, but I think you are reintegrating some of the other features of the site.
Well, And that's kind of one of the reasons I couldn't do a lot of stuff with the message board, even with the old software. But now, technically, everyone will be WordPress users. They can comment on
articles
with their regular accounts.
We will be just like the Star Tribune. We'll have random people coming into our comments.
But I could bring in the thing like, what's the next game? And that could be on the portal page because it's not two different databases talking. It's one database, even though it's a new software. So WordPress works together a little bit better, and people just have to get used to it. Obviously, every new message board is going to be weird. That's why I'm doing it at the end of the season, after the season, tomorrow actually. Knock on wood that I get it works okay. The old database is huge, so. That's why I'm deleting so many old posts so I don't have to import as much.
That's why Jupe isn't drinking tonight.
Oh, it might be a late night tomorrow night. So,
all right,
people. Thanks for again another great season. Thanks for all you people who stay up late with us every week.
Makes Wednesdays fun.
See ya in 6 months, folks.